What's up, everybody? Better late than never. I am back at Actively Lazy 85. I'm ready to recap my awful, dreadful week 3 and get moving towards week 4. We got to get week 3 out of here. Anybody that is new to this podcast, again, I want to welcome you to the Fantasy Six Pack NFL Betting Show. Today, I'm going to give you the NFL week 4 best bets, my NFL week 4 best bets. We will go over the spreads. If I feel like there's an over to play, I will point that out. Like last week, I think it was the Seahawks Panthers. I was all over that over, and that got absolutely crushed. I am currently participating in the 2023 Westgate contest. So if anybody's asking what makes me qualified to host a gambling show, I am competing against professionals. And I will also update you on the status of that competition, which again, after last week, is looking pretty rough. But it's a long season, and we will see how we bounce back this week. Before we start, if you want to get access to more betting advice, along with our award-winning rankings, custom advice on Discord, DFS, and more, use the promo code F6 NFL for 10% off of all of our available options. So, guys, make sure you do subscribe to the Discord channel. Look, the betting Discord channel had a guy in there who won $7K on a 10-leg parlay. So, I mean, there's some magic going on in there. It wasn't me per se, but there was some magic going on in there this week, and we're very supportive of each other. And it's been a great experience to be part of that Discord. And it's not just NFL. If you're into baseball, if you're into college football, I'm pretty sure at some point we'll even navigate to some NBA action. So if you want to make some money, that is definitely the place to be. But we cannot start week 4 off without talking about week 3. And so week 3, I'll be very transparent here. It was not good at all. I went 0-5 in all my contests, actually. Didn't really mix and match per se, but 0-5, I didn't get anything. But here's the weird part of gambling. I go 0-5 in my contests. The riskiest play I took was the Bengals -1.5 on Tuesday before Joe Burrow was announced as being starting, or is announced as a starter. I laid 2 units. So that's 2 times the bet that I normally do on the Bengals to cover that number. But because I was afraid that he may not start, I didn't put him in my super contest, because once I put the super contest picks in, they're locked. Totally different risk there. So I was fully prepared to hedge in the event that Jake Browning played. But I got lucky. He started, they covered. So that was a 2 times win. I got 2 units off that. Now, I've already lost 5 units. I want you guys to keep track of this. I've already lost 5 units, but I've won 2 off of that bet. Fast forward, I have 1 unit on the over 42, I think is what I put down for the Panthers and Seahawks. That got absolutely crushed. Now I'm at 3 units. I had 1.5 units on Seattle to cover the 5. Now I'm up to 4.5 units. And then I posted on Sunday on my Twitter in the betting chat a 7-1 boost. It was actually 4 plus 494, a 3-leg parlay for props. I post that in the chat, plus 494. Used the 50% boost that DraftKings gave me, got it up to 7-1, and that hit. So if you're keeping track, I actually made 11.5 units last week, despite going 0-5. But that does absolutely nothing for my contest. So if you're wondering why I'm not back there in the corner somewhere crying, because it's not all bad. But contest-wise, it was pretty bleak. I went from number 13 to 494 after, an 0-5. So I got to bounce back. I got to bounce back quick. I'm thinking from here on out, I need at minimum 4 to even consider getting back into contention. And if anybody was keeping track, I was 8-2 through the first 2 weeks, and I was sitting in second place. Ironically, had I won all 5 games last week, which is what I did in week 1, had I replicated that last week, I would be sitting on $25,000 right now. So trust me, it is a lot of pain in this chest going into this week, but I will, press forward. There's guys who I look up to that are professional gamblers who told stories of weeks on end when they've been absolutely terrible and just bounce back. So you kind of have to have the batter's mentality, like to do a cross sport reference baseball, man. You get another at bat. Never mind if you struck out this time, you still got runners on second and third, and you just got to get a hit. So put the ball in play, see what happens. I'm going to place the bets and see what happens this week, but not switching up anything per se as far as how I'm approaching. But I will say that I'm going to lean more to eye tests this week. I do watch a lot of football. I'm not just a gambler. A lot of you guys know that if you follow me on Twitter, if you're in the Facebook group, if you check out the TikTok, which is some cool videos that I posted on the TikTok from the All 22s. If you're interested about the Dolphins and Broncos game, there's a couple plays in there that will kind of let you know how the Dolphins are cooking and what exactly went wrong for the Broncos. Spoiler alert, everything went wrong for the Broncos. But having that different angle of knowing why teams do what they do and not just leaning purely on statistics, I think gives me somewhat of an edge to bounce back. If you're purely a numbers person, it's a little difficult to kind of figure out where you went wrong. Because from a number standpoint, honestly, the only thing that happened to me was that the public won last week. I typically fade the public, and it's not because I want to, it's just because that's how I usually lean. I'm usually going in the contrarian route. And so last week, if you were contrarian, you got hit over the head. The public won a lot of bets. A lot of those teams that were taking in 80, 70% of the money won. Ironically, the Cowboys didn't. They were the only team, I think, over 70% of the bets placed on them that didn't win last week. But that's the nature of the beast. The same way, if you're one of those people who was typically an over better, if you were an over better week 1, you got hit over the head. Under was 12-4. If you're over better in week 2, it was 13-3. So you kind of have to take the good with the bad, and just hope that you don't tank all of it, in consecutive weeks. So with that being said, I could recap the games. The game that hurt the most was that Vikings game. I had the Vikings with some plus money, even, at a pick'em level, because it moved a little bit, but they just could not get it done. I really thought that was the game that would give me my one, because I honestly, in 3-4 years of gambling in these super contests, I have never had an 0-5 week ever. And so this is uncharted territory for me. I've had losing weeks, but I've never had a week where I didn't get at least one of my contest picks. And then the worst part in the Westgate contest is they publish it publicly. So you can go online and look and see at Icon Bomb 0-5. So that's really embarrassing. But like I said, the game that hurt the most was the Vikings game. I've never seen a team with so much going for them. Top 10 defense, quarterbacks playing really good, receivers doing everything. I think the only knock is that they fumble and their block is not that great. But statistically speaking, they're putting up numbers offensively, and they have a solid defense, and they are 0-3 because they can't stop beating themselves. It's just absolutely crazy. And it's even crazier to see that this team went 11-0, I think, in one possession games last year. And now I think they're 0-3 in one possession game. So it's just one of those things where you kind of have to know when to get off the train. And I will be honest, I'm off the Vikings train for now. I'm off the Falcons train for now. Falcons definitely disappointed me in that Lions game. Really, I know Ritter's mid, but just thought I'd get a little bit more out of him, and still frustrated with Arthur Smith's play calling. So I think I need to pick and choose my battles with them a little bit more. So I'm off that train as well. And then honestly, the second most disappointing loss was the Buccaneers game. And it wasn't that the Buccaneers were completely outmatched. It's just some of the play calling is just really silly. You're backed up on your 1 yard line and you run into the heart of the defense, which it's like, did you not know who Jalen Carter was? He pushed that guy in the backfield about 3 yards. Like, that was never going to work. This is a terrible play call, resulted in a safety, completely killed the momentum. And then don't get me started on their lack of effort with 9 minutes left in the game, 9 minutes and about 38 seconds, I believe, left in the game. You don't even try to get the ball back. Like, that's terrible. And for me as a gambler, a lot of times when I lose a bet, I don't mind watching the game and finishing it out because I want to see, especially if I'm betting a dog, I want to see how much fight they give. The teams who don't quit are great for backdoor covers. And so sometimes when you get a number that's a little too high, you can backdoor because this team's not going to stop. The Lions are one of my favorite backdoor covering teams over the last 3 years. They just don't stop. Like, you can be whipping them and they're going to fight back as best as they can. And that's what you want to see if you're backing a dog. And I just didn't see any of that in the Buccaneers, like the players or the coaching. So it was just a pain to see. Outside of that, again, moving forward, we're just going to bounce back. I gave that enough time. Let's move on to week 4. Week 4, Thursday night football, Lions at Packers. Packers plus 1.5, over-unders at 46. I do not usually take Thursday night football games in my contest, but I'm a little inclined to take a shot here. And I'll tell you why. The Packers, I think, are a little underrated right now. They're playing with a lot of momentum. And, that comeback against the Saints was telling because the Saints, I think, have a really good defense. And they were shut out and were able to turn it on for 18 points in the fourth quarter. And then the play call to go for 2 was very gutsy, but also the right call. And that makes me optimistic with Matt LaFleur and this team that they're on the right track. They are one of the biggest surprises this season. They're not getting talked about as much as they should. They are actually, to me, now the front runners in this division. I think they're better than the Lions. The Lions had that great win against the Chiefs, followed that up with a disheartening loss to the Seahawks at home. Got it right with the Falcons, but I think the Falcons are a step down and the Packers are a step up. Even though the Packers lost to the Falcons, I would just chalk that up to it just, being a team that's just a little out of whack with some injuries that came up in that game. We're getting Aaron Jones back tomorrow. I believe very strongly that they're getting Aaron Jones back. I believe that they're getting Christian Watson back, which should help. But at the end of the day, I still think that the Packers are the better team, getting 1.5 at home in a game that honestly should be a pick'em, if anything. So I think you could call this a trap line because it's low-hanging fruit with the Lions, and the Lions are a pretty popular team right now, which is weird to say, but they were expected to win the division. I don't think they should be favored here. So let me get the Packers. I love it money line, and I'll take the spread as well in my contest. I made sure to highlight that this game is in London. So if you are trying to play this game, do not sleep in. Make sure you place your bet before, I think, the 9:30 kickoff. They're also doing some little weird Toy Story thing with the game. Be interested to see how that plays out, but just don't miss the game, okay? Falcons at Jaguars. And again, at Jaguars, we do joke that they are London's team. But this game should be somewhat interesting in the sense that we kind of know what the Falcons are as a team. The Jags just got embarrassed. Absolutely embarrassed by the Texans. I would say is one of the biggest surprises, but if you followed the money was heavy on the Texans to the point I think last week in the content or in this podcast, I was even questioning I don't really know what they see, but I get the history, yada yada, but yeah, the Texans made it work, man. Just whipped them in all phases of the game, special teams, offense, defense. They were just the better team. So this is a bounce back spot to me for the Jacksonville Jaguars. At this point, they have to be a little desperate. And I know that people are probably like, it's just 3 games into the season, but hear me out. They are supposed to be dominating this division. They just lost to the Texans. And I do believe that the Colts are 2-1 and leading the division. The Titans look like they're dead in the water. The Jags have to get back and they have to make a statement and bring people back to understanding this is their division to lose. These are the types of games that they want to win to kind of bolster themselves to get home field advantage. If you're in a division as low as the AFC South, you probably want to get in contention for outright home field, like one of the top two spots in the AFC. So they've got to pick it up. I think this is a good game for them. Calvin Ridley revenge game, you could say. And then the matchup. The Falcons offense is still in a flux. Will we see Heineke? I don't know. If we do see Heineke, that probably would sway my my bet a little bit. But Arthur Smith seems content to give Ritter more of a chance. I think we've seen all we can see out of Ritter. I don't understand why they have so much faith in him or continue to kind of stick behind him. The Falcons have not figured out how to use all three of their playmakers at the same time. We get either a great game by Bijan, okay game by London. What happened to Pitts? We get a whole lot of Pitts on Bijan. What happened to London? And it's just one of those things where, again, I think the coaching is killing this team a little. They've got to figure out a way to open up the playbook. And if Ritter is the problem because he doesn't want to throw the ball down the field or he can't be accurate, then you got to move on because we've seen enough of Heineke to know he could probably get it done. I think if Heineke plays, this game is probably 2 points less. But because I don't know if we're going to see Heineke, let me get the Jags in a game that they typically don't do that bad. But they're also usually dogs coming into this game as well. But it's a good bounce back spot, and I think that's why they're favored by 3. One of the more interesting games is, one of the more interesting games this week. Ravens at the Browns. Browns favored by 2.5. Over unders at 40.5. I just want to start this game. There are lines now showing that the Browns are favored by 3. The Westgate contest is where I'm getting this information from. They still have it at 2.5. Westgate doesn't change the line in the contest, so whatever it opens up with at 5 p.m. On West Coast time is what it's going to stay. So I absolutely love the Browns at 2.5 right here. A game where I think we might see the Ravens give a little bit of fight because, again, this is kind of a bounce back spot for them because they just lost to the Colts. But I would caution people taking the Ravens under 3 because you're asking them to beat the Browns, and I don't think they're better than the Browns. So with that being said, if you can get anything over 3.5 with the Ravens, go for it. But I doubt that you will. And I know a lot of people have a lot of faith in Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson actually, I think, is like 6-1 against the Browns. And the one time he lost was the game that he got hurt. But this defense is cooking something crazy, man. They are good at both phases of the ball, passing and stopping the run. I see an uptick in Lamar Jackson usage, which makes me concerned that he might end up getting hurt within the next 3 weeks. I don't wish that on him, but the guy should not be running the ball 16 times more a game in designed runs. You're already talking about him taking hits in the pocket and running, when the play breaks down. But now you've got 16 design runs on top of that. I seen 33 passes, 16 runs. Like that usage rate is just a little too high, man. He's going to break down again. And I hate to say it, but I don't want to be a part of that. And on this defense, for sure, if they can't run the ball and they get in passing downs, that is the strength of the Browns defense. Good luck. I mean, you got but I mean, it's just, that's a good unit. Jim Schwartz is on it. The team is buying in, and the only thing that can stop this is we get a bad Deshaun Watson game, and I want to think that he's getting a little bit more comfortable. I saw some sparks of the old Watson in this last game. Him and Amari Cooper seem to have better chemistry. Ravens defense isn't as good as we've known them to be in the past, and you always have to be concerned with the lack of depth for the Ravens because everybody on their team gets hurt. Let me get the Browns here in a tough division game, but worthy of, what we expect from the AFC North. Got to be game of the week here. Dolphins at the Bills. We got some good division games this week. Dolphins at the Bills. Bills favored by 2.5. Over-unders at 54. So now is the time where I get to point out what I consider an over team and how I look at those games. So Dolphins, and it doesn't have to be the fact that they score 70. Look at the pace that they play at. Look at the output of points. They have to be an over team. Have to be an over team. Combine that with the defense that doesn't mind giving ground. Have to be an over team. They keep finishing drives. Have to be an over team. Dolphins are over team, probably my number one over team. Seattle is an over team. Explosive offense, uptick in tempo, and the defense is just basically porous. And then the Chargers are an over team for me. So these three teams, if you catch them in games with the right team, you can make it work. Bills would fit that right team in this spot. I think the over 54 is in play. I don't see the Bills trying to slow the game down. They're an explosive big play offense themselves. They don't necessarily run with the fastest pace, but they're all about chunk plays, whether it be through 15-yard run by Josh Allen or 30-yard broken play to Gabe Davis or Stephon Diggs. If you're looking for prop bets, Josh Allen has amazing stats against the Dolphins in all his games, and honestly, I think he has a great record against them. I think Tua is 1-4 against the Bills outright. If you look at Tua against the Patriots, I think I pointed that out when they played him. He's never lost to the Patriots, but he's only beat the Bills once. And I want to say that was a game that Josh Allen didn't play, but I'll have to double check on that. Either way, this looks a lot like when Joe Burrow plays the Browns. I mean, the Bills are a good team, but even when they're not the best team on the field, sometimes when they play the Dolphins, they still find a way to win. Classic AFC East battle. I'm landing with the Bills -2.5. I don't want to take the Bills over 3. I think this game comes down to like a last-second drive and a field goal. But if the Dolphins get to cooking like they were cooking against the Broncos, that's going to be something else. Also, don't really like the idea of taking a team who's coming off such a huge win, everything going right, going against another quality team. Just seems like a letdown spot for me, despite the fact that the Dolphins are playing their best football in a long time. It's just like the big red flag for me. Like, this is a team they usually struggle against in a spot where you kind of expect it to come back a little bit. Like, they've been playing so good. At some point, you expect it to level out. I think they're due for a letdown game. Patriots getting 7, visiting the Dallas Cowboys, over under at 43. I wouldn't be surprised if this goes under. Cowboys still having some issues with their red zone offense. This isn't a new thing. I know people are making a big deal about it. It's not Dak's fault. It's just a lot of it scheme and play calling. It's been an issue since even when Jason Garrett was the head coach. I wanted to blame it on play calling, but I just don't know. Like, it's just one of those things where they score a lot in the sense that you see it on paper, but they're just not good in that 20-yard spot. I don't know what it is. Somebody on Twitter was pointing out, it's because they missed Zeke. I mean, 2016, 2017, like Zeke before the knee injury, 100% was giving him a huge boost in the red zone. But, that Cardinals game, I can see where people who are saying, it was a letdown spot because they were still in shock that they lost Diggs. I can kind of see that. But also can see where here comes that good old weakness again. They're just not that stout against the run. Not stout enough, per se. And if you can get that aggressive defense in positions to where they don't know if you're running or passing, and you can do some play action, get them moving around and give you some flexibility in your play calling, you typically see the Cowboys struggle a little bit. And they're not in a division that has the ability to do that, except for, say, the Eagles. But when it happens, that's the only time I really see them kind of look a little off. Now, they're coming back home. They've had the letdown, definitely going to refocus. Your question has to be, how good are the Cowboys to you if you're backing them at 7? Now, I want to keep some perspective here. The Patriots played the Eagles and the Dolphins. Both games arguably came down to one possession from covering for the Patriots. So they could have backdoored, they just didn't get it done. The little lineman flick that they did, or lateral, almost extended the drive against the Dolphins to give them a position to backdoor. Then you look at the Eagles game; they had plenty of opportunities, even in Week 1, to cover that, and then in a case win, and that didn't work out either. And they do have a shutdown corner in Christian Gonzalez, not being talked about as much. But if you can get Tyreek Hill's cocky self to give you credit, and you're a rookie, that's speaking volumes. And so I already saw a report that he's gonna follow CD around. I mean, I thought that would be obvious anyway. You got a pretty good pass rusher in Judon, a very disciplined defense going against an offense that is still lacking explosion. I like the under here, and if it's going to go under, I like the Patriots to cover. It'll be ugly because Mac Jones he's not Tom Brady. He's not even Jimmy G. But if they can get that running game going, because we have seen the Patriots really grind teams with a strong run game. If they can get that running game going and get the Cowboys moving backwards, this is a great cover for them. All right, so my honorable mention game, Cincinnati Bengals at Titans. So honorable mention games are games that, if I might put them in my super contest if I get a line that I don't like, and then 2, more than likely betting them on the side in a parlay or outright. I would say I love the Bengals because of the history. Joe Burrow and this team always beats the Titans. But, you're matching up the Bengals against the worst passing defense in the league. This is just what the doctor ordered. They really need this game bad if you're the Cincinnati Bengals. One, you can make up some ground because the team that beat you is like in Baltimore. A team that beat you is going against the Browns. That'll give you some ground. And then 2, when you start 0-2 in your division, you want to kind of make up something with the out-of-division games. Because in the Ravens case, they've got the Browns, and I'm pretty sure they're going to have the Steelers coming up soon. Bengals need to feast on these lower out-of-division teams to give themselves a little bit of cushion, a little bit of buffer in the event that the Ravens take a nosedive or the Steelers come back in their division and take a little nosedive too. So big game for them. Need to get it right. It looked a little bit better against the Rams. If anybody listens to the Inside Drive on ESPN Northwest Radio, I talk about – what's up, Tony? I talk about how the Bengals need to go down the field more. They got too many weapons to go side to side. That needs to get better. And so last week we saw that. Less side to side, more going down the field. You look at that team, Higgins can take you vertically. Chase can go vertical across the middle. Boyd can go across the middle. Mixon is a dynamic running back, actually averages close to 4.5 on a bad night. And they just don't run the ball enough, and they don't give him the ball enough. They don't spread the ball around enough. I don't know if that's the play calling or what, but they have these situations every season, it seems like, since they got Joe Burrow, where the first 3 to 4 games, they're throwing screens and stuff like a college team. Like, what are we doing? You got all these playmakers. Go down the field. Get people moving down the field. Get Jamar Chase the ball. How does he not have a touchdown? That is crazy. And I know a lot has been made about the health of Joe Burrow, but, at the end of the day, man, you got to get rid of the ball. That's if your calf muscle is messed up, get rid of the ball. Some of that falls on him letting the ball go and also on the scheme. So I feel like they're turning the corner. I was one of the folks that said, look, I'm not going to worry too much about them because they do this every year. They have this like month window where it's like, are they really that good? What's going on? And then they break off 11 covers. I'm going to keep taking them with my money, not necessarily in the contest, but I'll definitely put some money behind them to keep this rolling at 2.5 against the Titans team that is just struggling. They look old, man. Like, they just look old. The line looks old. Tannehill looks old. The defense looks old. Derrick Henry looks old. So, at some point, I'm expecting to see Malik Willis. It wasn't like they had a lot of faith in Tannehill in the first place. They drafted Will Levis, and we don't even see Will Levis. I don't even think he's dressing out. So something's got to give with that Titans team. early in the season, I was like, yeah, well, Vrabel always gets them ready, take this number, yada, yada. I'm off that, man. Mike Vrabel has made some really weird calls. I got blessed in that Saints game week 1 when he went for a field goal down 4, but it ain't working out. Last week, man, this guy had some momentum building. They hadn't done much. And instead of going for 3 and just getting your points and going in a half, like, hey, look, we scored, let's build off of that. This fool, no timeouts left, goes for a touchdown and they get nothing. Nothing. And it was like, do you not know you're playing one of the best pass rushes in the game? Have you not watched them dominate your offensive line for the entire half? Just take your points, man. Just get a little bit momentum. Madison, I am not a fan of running backs who fumble. Madison's in his head right now. He's so much better than what he's been playing. There was times when he used to come in for Dalvin Cook and you couldn't tell the difference. And I don't know what's going on with him right now. Like he doesn't seem like he's got the vision anymore. The fumbles are just absolutely unforgivable and ill-timed every single time. This guy's having some silly fumbles. And so I'm off of him. I hope Cam Akers works out for them. I just don't know if he can bounce back because at this point, it just looks like it's in his head. And he's one of the big reasons why they're not winning games, because whether people want to talk about it or not, those fumbles are drive killers, absolute drive killers. And if you're losing games by one possession, you definitely can go back and look at, dude, you fumbled twice. And Jamar, not Jamar, but Jefferson is not, he's not immune to it either, and neither is Kirk Cousins. But they give him the ball to pace the offense, to give those guys a break, to help take some of the pressure off Kirk Cousins, who gets hit a ton. But it's just not working. I would think when they traded for him that they're bringing him in to start. I don't know what happened to Cam and why it didn't work in Los Angeles. I really thought he'd be a good fit for McVay. But you look at McVay from the guys from the Shanahan tree, McVay and Mike McDaniels, it's just a little off with McVay as far as the run game goes. I see the elements in the passing game. He just has not developed a good run game out in Los Angeles. So it's one of those things where probably a change of scenery does them both good. I still think Akers has a lot to give. He's not a back with a lot of mileage. And I'm a Florida State fan. I remember seeing him play, and I just think the talent's still there. He just needs somebody to bring it out. And if you're going from Dalvin Cook to somebody else, Cam Akers, I think, is a good replacement, or could be a good replacement. So we'll see how it integrates. The Vikings have to get their offensive line healthy again, too. That's one thing that I have talked about from time to time. And the guys they're missing on the left side are the run blocking guys. I don't know if you guys remember, a lot of Dalvin Cook's best runs came on cutbacks to the left side. They usually have some studs over there, and they're just missing some guys right now. So in a perfect world, the line gets healthy and Cam comes in, it should be fine. It should be fine. They also got the Panthers this week, too. They should be able to run on them. So it's a good game for Cam Akers to come back to, or ease him back into things. Let's see what I just talked about, the Bengals and Titans. Steelers and Texans. Steelers favored by 3. This is a tricky game per se, because again, we are back in this mode of me questioning, what do people see in the Texans? They had a great win last week. Everything went well. I love Stroud, but they're not really a talented team, and they just lost Stingley, who is their shutdown corner, going against a Steelers team that seems to keep getting gifts on these lines. They were clearly better than the Raiders. I don't even know what I was thinking when I didn't cap that properly. Clearly better than the Raiders. Even with their lack of running game, they've got the playmakers on the defensive side of the ball for sure, and offensively to get it done against these mid-level teams. I would consider the Raiders a mid-level team. I had the Steelers preseason as one of the surprise contenders for their division, and a team I expected to get into the playoffs. This Texan team, I think their over-under was around 6.5, maybe a little bit lower than that. I don't even think they're a 5-win team. So I talked about this in week 1 or 2. There are spots for me as a gambler when I do future bets. I look at a game and I'm like, this team has to win here, because I bet them to have a certain number. They're not going to get there if they lose this game. Example I give to people for this season, the Bengals, their over under was 11.5 at the beginning of the season. I said I thought it would go under because the division was a little bit tougher. When they matched up week 1 against the Browns, I said I have to pick the Browns to win because I expect this team to go under 11.5. And this has to be one of those games that they lose. Especially with it being a division game, I expect them to lose this game. So that's why I put money behind the Browns, even though the data was saying, historically they struggle against the Browns. I was sticking to the fact that I've already placed a future bet. Steelers game. I've already placed a bet on the Steelers to go over. They got to beat the Texans. They got to cover this number. I know it's JJ Watt night and they're going to be hype and this and that, but at the end of the day, man, this defense is a whole lot better than that Texans offense, and their Steelers offense, they don't run the ball well. And I looked at the all 22s, it's really bad, but they don't need to run the ball well against this team. They should be able to pass. The Jags beat themselves a whole lot Sunday. Pittsburgh has not beat themselves yet. They've been whipped. The Niners whipped them bad, but it wasn't because they beat themselves. The Niners were just better than them. The last 2 wins that they've had have shown that they're not a team that beats themselves. And so I expect this defense to get a couple turnovers. And what's not being talked about is JJ Watt night. Do you not know who his brother is and what team he plays for? You don't think he wants to show out either for his brother? Like, come on, man. So this 3 right here, I think, is generous. It should be a little bit higher than that. And if the Texans come somehow win or cover, then I've got to turn around and apologize next week. So there's that. Let's see. Stroud looks decent. Not gonna lie. Oh yeah, Stroud is clear and far the better looking quarterback for the rookies. And I actually have a 6-1 future on Anthony Richardson to win Rookie of the Year, and I'm about to just trash that ticket. Even if he didn't get the concussions, like Stroud has been doing some great things. And I think what gets underlooked sometimes is like when people look at quarterbacks and they want to evaluate how good a quarterback is, they look at the win column. And we're all kind of at the mercy of that because we're so used to seeing like the Bradys, the Mahomes, the Peyton Mannings, like the elite quarterbacks get wins. Like that's how it goes. But these rookies, like they're drafted 1 and 2 because those teams suck. So they're not going to get a lot of wins. But you can see how he's playing, that he has a good grasp of the game. He's handling a lot of what NFL teams are throwing at him, and they have to game plan for him. I don't think people, when they look at the Panthers, go, oh, man, we got to get ready for Bryce Young. Now, they will say that with Anthony Richardson because Steichen's using him in so many different ways, and they got a little more dynamic of a run game. But C.J. Stroud is analyzing, getting the ball out, finding the playmakers. And, at the end of the day, if the play ain't getting made, I can't blame him. The ball's coming out on time. It's going to the right spot, the right guy. He just dropped it or he just didn't get it done. So Stroud's doing his part. And, I was a little down on the staff for the Texans to be able to navigate CJ's ability and guide him through because they're brand new to this as well. But so far, so good. So far, so good. So if you're a Texan fan, is looking up, I wouldn't knock anything if they didn't win this game. I wouldn't knock it if they only won 4 games and got under that 4.5, or if they fall right at 5. It's a young team. They got a lot of work to do. But again, the quarterback is the biggest key. You got a good left tackle to keep them upright as well. Just continue to get the playmakers and work with that. They did give up a little too much for Will Anderson, but, it is what it is at this point. At least he's playing unlike Trey Lance. But let me get the Steelers here. Last game, honorable mention, Rams. This is down to a pick 'em. I think it opened at plus 1.5, but the Rams at the Colts. My understanding is Anthony Richardson has been cleared to practice, but I am not sure if he will play. So I would advise everybody to keep an eye on this. Even if Anthony Richardson plays, I don't know if it changes the line. I don't think we have enough to say that he's more of a positive in the other direction than, say, Minshew. Minshew got the win last week. He's a gutsy guy, but one thing he's lacked is consistency at the NFL level and even in college. So I wouldn't bet on Minshew to have back-to-back good games or back-to-back wins. So I like the Rams in this spot. Rams have been one of the better teams all season in the sense of you look at what they have talent-wise and the coaching job that's being done and the results that they've had. Big win against Seattle, gave the Niners all they could for as long as they could until the obvious talent gap pushed the Niners over the top, and had the Bengals on the ropes for most of the game and just couldn't, again, kind of like with the Niners, the talent gap, just couldn't close that talent gap, and they ended up losing. But McVay looks rejuvenated as a coach. He's definitely scheming guys open. We talk a lot about, I call him a Pokemon because I can't pronounce his name, but we talk a lot about the wide receiver that's taking my guy's play. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank on the Rams receiver because he absolutely destroys us as a Niner fan. But we talk a lot about what's going on with the wide receiver one. What's not talked about is how they consistently scheme Tutu Atwell into the game. He just comes out of nowhere, and he's really good at what he does too. And they find a way to get him the ball. Would like to see more out of Higbee, honestly, and I know his fantasy owners would too. And just the idea of props, like, man, Higbee, where you at in the red zone? I need that because it's like they're covering everybody else. You need to get with it. But Stafford's playing really good. The one thing that would concern me is the lack of handling strong pass rushes. I don't think the Colts qualify for that. The Bengals brought some pressure in the second half, and that's kind of what the Niners did. They kind of played along, and then they finally got tired of it and started throwing blitzes at them, and the Rams just couldn't handle it, or Stafford couldn't handle it. He had some turnovers. I think that's what you're going to see with all the other good teams, but the Colts don't have that kind of talent gap. Yes, Puka. That's right, Puka Nacua. And Ronnie, I appreciate you. I keep wanting to call him a Pokemon as a joke, which I'm pretty sure he would find disrespectful, but it just seemed like it was a funny thing. I said they got a Pokemon and a Tutu out there. So, but yeah, Puka Nacua. I took him on a prop over 6.5 catches Monday. Didn't hit. I think it landed at 6 or maybe 5. But again, looking at some of the ways that people play people and the adjustments that they have to make, I didn't take that as a true loss because I was able to see, like, hey, when people press him or they get aggressive with him, he seems to kind of get his timing thrown off a little bit, and it might throw him off. So the next time they play an aggressive offense or something, I'll make sure I pay close attention, or aggressive defense. I'll pay close attention to his reception numbers, because if it's anything over 6, I'll probably wait it out just because of how people or how he reacted to that press. And not every team is a press team. Not everybody plays like that. So it's probably just a matchup thing. But yeah, let me get the Rams here. I'm not even gonna overthink this. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is. I'll take the Rams either way. So for my Thursday night football prop, I already shared this on my Twitter. If you have not followed me on Twitter, it's right there at ActivelyLazy85. Please follow me. My prop bets I typically do on Twitter because we don't get a lot of prop lines on Thursday, when I do this podcast, typically on Tuesdays for a Sunday game. And then two, there's so many injuries and things going on. I don't want to tell people to take a prop bet, 5 days in advance, and then the guy twists his ankle, or, I'm not picking on Diggs, but like those practice injuries happen. So you kind of want to wait it out a little bit. But Luke Musgrave is one of my favorite tight ends. I actually got to see him in person at the Senior Bowl. And one of the fun facts about him is that the 2 days I was there at the Senior Bowl, Luke Musgrave, they had a next-gen stat guy there. So everybody had something like linked up to them to kind of monitor their speed. Luke Musgrave ran the fastest time in the 2 days I was there. He had the fastest top speed, which is something that you wouldn't expect when you look at him. Tall, lanky guy from Oregon State doesn't necessarily screen speed. But, I mean, we had guys like Tajay Spears there and other quick playmakers, and he had the top speed miles per hour. So really thought that it was a sneaky pick by the Packers, and I feel like they're starting to get him more involved in the offense. If you look at his last 3 games, they've slowly been building him. They've slowly been building him up for his contributions to the offense. Last week, he had 6 catches on 8 targets. It was just 49 yards. And I might have misspoke when I said a monster game, but it was more the targets that drew me into it. Because if people are getting targets, they're more than likely going to get yards after the catch in today's game. He's right now sitting at 35.5 yards in a matchup against a team that, if you look at DFS, and I've been telling folks, you got to match DFS with your prop bets. DFS wise, Musgrave is probably in the most favorable position to have a great game because the Detroit Lions are one of the worst teams at covering the tight end. I don't think they're going to fix that. Kyle Pitts doesn't even get used, and I think he had 37 yards against the Lions. So 35.5 with a guy that actually gets targets, sign me up for that. I think he got 8 targets last game. I think it was like 6 the game before that. I think it's trending up. I know they're getting their wide receiver 1 back. I don't think it hurts him at all. And if the Lions decide to bring pressure, Aiden Hutchinson is not a bad pass rusher himself. The first person that I'm going to think that Jordan Love is going to look to is to get it to the tight end. Matt LaFleur loves to use his tight ends, especially if they're more on the athletic side. And I think he's going to be trending up at 35.5. Another prop that I want to put out there that I didn't talk about that was absolutely insane. My man Swift for the Eagles had over 150 yards the last game. And he came into this game against the Bucs as like over under 43. They'll never do that again. That was such a low ball of odds. I thought it was fake. I didn't even know how to react when I seen it, and I was already like exhausted on having my bet spread out. I didn't have any money to put on it, but I didn't even put it out there because I was like, this got to be a mistake. But I definitely went back and looked, and that was his run total. Look, if I know I'm high on the the Commanders defense, but if his yards are under 60, you got to take the over. The guy's getting carries. He's clearly better than Gainwell in this system. They're going to feed him the rock and he's going to respond. He's playing like possessed. So as long as he stays healthy, I'm all over his props too. Honorable mention for props that you want to look out for. My guy, Josh Allen, passing yards this week. He should have a decent game against the Dolphins again, has favorable matchup against that secondary, usually does well. Not only the passing yards, maybe take a look at his rushing yards. I feel like he's going to make some plays with his legs this week. And then Joe Burrow, I mean, that team is terrible. And then also looking at Jamar Chase, he's due for a really big game. See if you can get some value on his touchdown drop. Expect him to score on Sunday, or give him a look to score on Sunday. And let's see, anybody else that I can think of off the top of my head. Calvin Ridley, check him out. Not only the score maybe, but also his yardage. I feel like they're going to find a way to get him the ball. And then that's probably it for like historical matchups, I think. So, yeah, keep an eye on all those guys. But I'm with Luke on the over-under, the over part of 35.5. And lastly, his receptions is at 3.5. If you put them together in the same game parlay, you're looking at plus 138 odds. I really like that as well. Tony, I'll answer this for you, and then I will sign off here. Who do I think is winning the NFC East this year? If we're going off of the 3-game sample, I'm a Niners fan. I don't want to jinx this, but if we stay healthy, we got a good chance. Probably. I mean, we're rightfully the favorite right now, especially out there. How everybody watched the Cowboys lose, and then also the fact that they lost Diggs, which is a pretty intricate part of their defense. I think we have to be the favorite. Now the Eagles are a close second to me. I would love to see us healthy and with an actual quarterback play the Eagles again in a rematch and see how that looks. The beauty of this season is that we do get to see the Niners play the Cowboys in the regular season, and we also get to see the Niners play the Eagles in the regular season. And that'll kind of make it a little bit clearer on who has a stronger case. But I would say those 3 teams are probably the teams that are contenders. Maybe a big surprise would be the Packers. Jordan Love is playing pretty well. Their defense with Rashawn Gray coming back and being healthy really helps. Jair Alexander is one of the more underrated cornerbacks. So they still got something cooking up there, even despite losing Aaron Rodgers. And Matt LaFleur is a good coach, man. I think we have to give him credit. He knows how to coach. He was winning as an offensive coordinator, I think, before he got with Aaron Rodgers. He continued to do well with Aaron Rodgers, and he is now grooming Jordan, doing a great job of it. I was way low on Jordan Love when he came out of Utah State. Did not think he'd have a successful NFL career, but they have figured out a way to make him accurate and to give him some confidence. And it's a team that is still winning football games despite being 100%, and that makes them dangerous to me. A young team too. Young teams that don't know no better are probably the best teams for a surprise. Like, they really don't know that they're not supposed to be winning, and they got a lot of momentum going on up there. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out throughout the season. And then I don't think anybody in the NFC South is really a threat. And I don't think Seattle's really a threat either. I think they're a little too inconsistent. But I would definitely say, if I had to rank them, Niners, Eagles, Cowboys, and then my dark horse would be the Packers. So we'll see how that all plays out. Hopefully my Niners stay healthy. Could really use a Super Bowl in this lifetime. But good luck to everybody. And again, looking at a bounce back week, man, you're not always going to win what you bet. And I'm looking forward to week 4. Treat me a lot better than week 3. Good luck to you guys.